TRRS Friendship Triangle.
Check. Chin chin, everyone. Let's get this started right. Cracking open a cold one. Sean's sucking down a white monster. Good. Good to know. How's it going? Sorry, I'm a little behind schedule. Apologies. I'm here now. I had some parenting stuff to take care of this morning, so a little behind schedule, but I'm here now. I think that's the important thing. How's everyone doing? How's your weekend? How was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend? Excuse me. The Harbinger Media event in Edmonton went great. It's a shame I'm the only one that attended. Yeah. Those are going to get better. And Bon as well. Thanks for the 31 months tier 1. Bon C3PO. Thank you for that. Harbinger event did go very well on Saturday. It was really cool. All right, you want to run down of the whole weekend? I had a quiet birthday weekend with my girlfriend. That's nice, Kijiji. Happy birthday week. Okay, well, here's the rundown. After the stream on Friday, I went to pick up my son from school. He came over, we hung out, we baked a cake. I've been the whole saga of getting the cake mix on Friday. I talked about that. The girlfriend havers. Couldn't be me. So we baked a cake. We ordered some pizza. We watched X-Men 97. That was pretty fun. Was the cake good? It was good. I think I didn't let it cool down enough. I think like it was still quite warm when we ate it. And I don't know if maybe it was just like a measurement thing or like the pan that I was using, but like the middle part was all gooey. Has anyone ever experienced this? The middle part was very gooey and like not cooked. But the rest of it was okay. And especially once it like we ate it like kind of almost right when it came out of the oven, which is I don't think what you're supposed to do. But it was good, especially after it got some time to cool down. When it became like once it became like an actual cake. Needed another 5 or 10 minutes. I mean, maybe, but then I feel like the stuff around the outer edges would have been overcooked, you know? Because the stuff at the outer, I think I need one of those like circular cake pans. This was like it was one of those foil ones that's just like a square. I think if I had kept it in for longer, the outer parts would have been too cooked. And honestly, the goo was pretty good. The goo was not bad at all. You use the size shape of a pan called for in the recipe. Recipes. Recipes schmecipes. No, I don't know. I thought I did, but this is why I don't bake, honestly. I like cooking because I love to cook actually, because there's like improvisation involved and you can kind of like feel it out. You know, you can just go by vibes a little bit. When you're making cakes and baking and stuff, it's like science. It's like chemistry or something. And I get for some people that's good, but for me, it's too much. It's too much having to like think about measurements and times and temperatures, dimensions, like pan dimensions and stuff. I can't do this. But anyway, it was still pretty good. It was still pretty good. I think I just need to get a circular pan, really. And I followed the TikTok recipe for making boxed cakes like way better. Because apparently, this is the thing. Apparently, a lot of bakeries just use the box cakes. But you add, instead of water, you use milk. 4 eggs instead of 3. Melted butter instead of vegetable oil. And it makes it way more rich and moist. And it was honestly quite good. Especially after it got some time to cool down, like put it in the fridge and stuff, eating some the next day. Then it was like, then it tasted like real cake. Streaming is cooking and podcasting is baking. I guess that's kind of an interesting analogy. I do a lot of half-ass stuff in the podcasting world as well, though. That's definitely it's an analogy that makes sense, though. Also, why you get the goo? Honestly, the goo was quite good. I don't believe me, I'd still ate it. I ate the goo. Believe you me. Anyway, excuse me. So the next day we hung out a bit more. He's doing this like acting stuff. He goes to a local theater and he does this like theater class. I don't need the goo until I've known someone for a while. Oh boy. Oh boy. So I brought him to his like acting theater thing, and then he had a birthday at noon, or so we thought. So after he was finished acting, his mom brought him to the birthday party at noon. And then when they got there, apparently discovered that the party was actually at 10 to noon. And noon was actually the end of the party. So he showed up to like the trampoline park birthday party right as it was ending. and missed out on it, which apparently did not go over that well. Predictably. I don't think he was too happy about that. Happy UN Security Council ceasefire resolution day. Yeah, we're gonna get into that, Red Scary. We're gonna get into that. You were late because you were working hard behind the scenes. That's right. Exactly. So then I just spent the rest of the day Saturday kind of getting ready. I cleaned up my apartment quite a bit because it had been gotten kind of messy. I wasn't really keeping up on that because I slipped and fell and hurt my back and was kind of sick. So the mess had kind of compiled a little bit. So I spent a lot of the day Saturday picking that up and then getting ready for the live thing. And it was really cool. I was fashionably late to that as well, obviously. I think at the previous live thing, I got there too early. And then I just kind of like hung around and had a lot of time to just feel nervous about it and anxious. So I wanted to go right into it this time. What are your cleaning jams? I think on Saturday I was just listening to a podcast, Red Scary. But if you're going to say don't say Steely Dan, that's going to be a problem because that's going to be the thing. That's going to be the jam. So I just say, is it psychotic behavior? I think it's psychotic to not listen to anything at all. I think if you're just cleaning in total silence, then that is definitely, I would agree. I think that's messed up. I think a lot of what I was listening to was I was listening to my conversation with VJ. Because sometimes I like to listen back to those. That's right. I was listening to myself. That's right. Those were some of the only podcasts I still listen to. This guy, I can still count on this guy. I can still trust this guy. I hate cleaning without listening to or watching something. Truly the worst anyone has ever suffered. No, like that's honestly like psycho shit. Just if you're, I can just imagining like just going out in total silence, putting away, hanging up your laundry and making the bed and doing the dishes of just. That's messed up. Like Buddy just staring at the airline seat in front of him. Exactly. Exactly. I need virtual coins displayed on my floor so I know where to clean. That's a good way to do it as well. That's a good way to do it as well. So I did that. I did the live show, which was really cool. And in fact, I'm going to link you right now. You can listen to it if you want to listen to it. And I mean, I saw so many viewers of the show and listeners out there on Saturday night. I was just overwhelmed by all the TRRS listeners that showed up to support me in real life. I was just overwhelmed with the level of support. Completely overwhelmed. Thank you. But if you missed it, you can listen to it using that link in the chat. It was a really good conversation with Paris and Nashua, and it was really fantastic. For those of you that weren't able to make it, you know. You can listen to it there. It was really good. It was honestly a really nice night. I ended up getting a little tipsy. Like, as you know, I don't drink that much. I drink usually a couple times a month. Usually I will just have like one beer or two, maybe three if I'm getting really crazy. But when I'm doing these live things, I like to have something to sip on. I've been drinking wine. I've been drinking red wine when I do it. And then I end up just like downing the entire bottle like over the course of the evening, like afterwards. And I'm schmoozing and talking to people. And I ended up just drinking an entire bottle of red wine, and I was pretty messed up, honestly. I was quite tipsy, and so I didn't really sleep that much. I was up pretty late. I can't sleep in, even when I drink a bottle of red wine and go to sleep at like 1:30. I was still awake at like 7. I want to kiss you. Yeah, like it was Joe Namath, I think was like, remember that? The football guy interview? I wasn't doing that, I'll tell you that much. Wine drunk is peak social drink. It's great, honestly. Like I said, I don't drink all that much. Sometimes it's really nice, though, to drink a bottle of red wine. Sometimes it's just a good thing to do, I think. I would recommend it. I can't sleep right when I drink. It's a big reason why I don't. Yeah, no, I was up at 7 a.m. and I was pretty hungover, but I drank a bunch of water. I took some Advil, so I was just mostly just tired the whole day. I didn't feel sick or headache or anything like that. Felt mostly okay. But it was just super like tired and out of it. And I really had yesterday a extreme like lazy Sunday treat yourself day. No, to drink a bottle of wine to fix emotional baggage. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I had a big lazy Sunday treat yourself day. I got out of bed at like 9. I just hung around in bed watching TikToks for a while. I got out of bed at like 9. I went to the world famous dingy breakfast counter near where I live. not to dox myself, even more so than I already have. I probably already have, but with context clues. But I went and got like eggs, sausage, bacon, big pile of potatoes, coffee. Was shooting the shit with the regulars there. That was nice. That was a great way to get up. I went back. I was back in bed. I watched The Martian. I watched The Martian when it came out. I saw it in theaters, but I hadn't seen it since. It's just a good movie to kind of have on in the background when you're like scrolling your phone. So I watched that, just hanging out in bed. Threw that on. I was just really hungry all day because of all the wine and all that stuff. And lunchtime, I made it like a spicy, creamy, cheesy ramen, which was just tremendous. Threw some green onion and some leftover chicken that I had into that. Had that for lunch around probably 1. Took a nap. Had a nice little nap. Got up later and then went out and got I really like overspent. I was really like in treat yourself mode. So then I went out later on that evening and got a fancy sandwich for dinner and ice cream. I got Haagen-Dazs chocolate peanut butter ice cream and a fancy sandwich for dinner. And it was nice. You know? It was pretty nice, I gotta say. And what did I watch? I was watching 3 Body Problem. I've been watching a bit of that. I'm on like episode 3 of that, which I don't love. I'm probably going to continue watching it. I'm not crazy about it, but 27 Club likes it. Yeah, I'm probably going to watch the whole thing. What don't you like? Definitely like, and I know this is like somewhat true to the book. I find the stuff about like China and the whole, like, it starts with this, the whole first scene is like the Cultural Revolution. And it's very heavy handed. You know, again, I know that's part of the source material, but like the whole first scene is like this young woman sees her father, who's like a physics professor, being beaten to death during the Cultural Revolution because he teaches physics. And like he's teaching like the Big Bang Theory, which apparently leaves some room for interpretation that you might possibly fill with religion. And so he's beaten to death during the Cultural Revolution. Yeah, like a struggle session, exactly. It should have taught physics better. And yeah, so it does get into it later. Yeah, he probably was a CIA asset. They didn't mention that part. It does get more into it later. It's treated with a little bit more nuance, all the stuff with the CPC. It's just anytime they go down that road, it's painful. There's another point where they're talking about sending this message and slingshotting it around the sun or something. And then the like political guy is just like, you're saying that the sun is like, the people view Mao as being the sun. You're saying like the real sun is like better than that? You're going to be arrested for this. And it's like, come on. You know? And I know the author is Chinese, and Mao is better than the sun. I agree. Like that, maybe she should have been making that more clear. I know the author is Chinese, and I know even in China, like the Cultural Revolution is viewed as being very a lot of mistakes happened and a lot of bad things happened. I think that's something that they do recognize in China. Like we've read that interview with Deng Xiaoping before where they talk about that. What does he say? Like 60% good, 40% bad, something like that. So I know that like we don't need to glorify the Cultural Revolution or say that it was like 100% great or perfect or bad things didn't happen. I just think seeing this depiction in a TV series made by, adapted by Westerners and made for Western audiences, I just couldn't help but like cringe a little bit at those moments. But also we need a Western culture revolution. I mean, that's the thing. That's the, like, you can acknowledge, yeah, impossible to bat 1,000 for sure. You can point out mistakes that happened or bad things that happened in China during that period, but like you can't look around at society in Canada or the United States and be like a socialist or a Marxist and think about having like a socialist revolution. Like that's not going to work without a cultural revolution. I'm sorry to say, you know, just like really deliberately going in and like trying to like change people's minds and perceptions and get people on board. People are wedded to old reactionary ideas, whether it's about politics or the economy or religion or whatever. And you got to kind of force people to get on board. You know, there's no real way of having a socialist revolution that I think doesn't include some kind of a program that attempts to accomplish that. Diego, the TV series is The Three Body Problem. Anyways, that was it. I find the depictions of like revolutionary China somewhat cringeworthy. I know it's the author's Chinese, and I know it's part of the source material, but I couldn't help but cringe at some of that stuff. I still don't mind the series at all. I think there's some good things to like about it. It does get a little bit less heavy-handed and a little more nuanced as it progresses, as from what I saw anyways. That's what the RWNJ culture war freaks are doing for sure. I mean, that's what the culture war is. Absolutely. Yeah, there's no way to have a socialist revolution in our deeply reactionary society without some kind of a program that attempts to do this. But I find that stuff in the show pretty cringeworthy. I'm still worth giving the show a shot. There's stuff there's some interesting stuff in there, interesting ideas, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of it goes. I would definitely recommend it, even if some of the scenes, especially the very first scene, will leave you going like, oof, you know? And that was my day yesterday. It was just a very relaxing day. I ate a lot of good food. I did a lot of chilling. Oh, and one more thing. So, yeah, there's some interesting deaths, like it is Weiss and Benioff. Yeah, and definitely worth seeing, I think. Definitely worth checking out. How the hell do we reconcile two worldviews that are completely at odds with each other? And one of those ideologies is completely at odds with humanity. Yeah, seriously. Seriously, like there's really no getting around that. Like the idea that like, oh, well, you know, we're socialists, we're Marxists, we just implement some kind of Marxist economic program. It's going to make everyone's lives better, so people will just get on board. But that's not how it works. People have been totally brainwashed. People have been totally this kind of like deeply reactionary identity has like been permanently imprinted on millions of people in our society, and there would be no way of changing that in this kind of rapid transition without engaging in that kind of a program. Okay, but one other thing though is that so my son at his school, they're doing like a little film festival. So I've showed you some of the stuff that we've worked on together, because he wanted to enter something. But I wanted to do something that more is just more him. It's not like I've shown you some of the animation stuff that we've done, but it's like me doing a lot of that. We're both doing it together, but it's like it's me doing a lot. So for the film festival that he submitted, it's this animation that he made, and it's 100% him. He made this Jekyll and Hyde animation completely like of his own will and volition. He did absolutely everything. Um, and all I did was I took that thing that he animated entirely himself, and he's 8 years old, you know, which I think is pretty amazing. I took this thing that he animated entirely himself, and I just took this like music that I had made, this like kind of cinematic music that I had made, and I just put the music in. But otherwise, he totally did everything himself. Would you like to see his animation? Not this. Not this. Okay. Okay, let me just see here. Ah. Okay. Okay, so this is it. And again, this is 100% him. He conceived and animated this entire thing just like drawing with his finger on the iPad. And I just made the music. That's all I contributed to it. Here it is. it's so it's so cool. There's parts of it where I don't totally get what's going on. Like I said, it's a little abstract at some points. I'll show you my favorite part though. I don't know if you picked up on this, but this is like there's like a dream sequence here. There's like a dream sequence. And turn the volume down. He's dreaming here. And you see he's like falling into Hyde's mouth. And he's going into like this weird dream territory. Dream dimension. Yeah, the tumbling into his stomach acids. It is. Like, honestly, I was amazed by this. You know? Like, he's 8. He's 8 years old. And this is just with like the crappy iPad animation application. And this was, it was entirely, I didn't like prompt him or anything. Like when he goes on, like when he uses the iPad, he doesn't usually use it to do gaming or like watch YouTube or anything. Like he'll watch YouTube on the TV. He'll just go on the iPad and I'll be like, "What are you working on?" And he says this like 90-second long like animation with all these things going on. It's like I'm like amazed by it. I think it's so cool. So I don't know. I don't know how it will do in the film festival. I'm hoping that they'll show it. I think it's really good. You know, I think for being 8 years old, I think that's pretty cool. I like that music that I did too. I did that music like years ago, just trying to do like a sort of cinematic little piece, and I just threw that on just to give it a little something else. Who's the jury? I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure how that works. I think it's teachers. But like maybe if they, because they're going to do, if they select it to show it on the night, then I don't exactly know how that's going to work. But anyway, I was proud of him. I think that's so cool that he spends time doing that kind of stuff. Like we have this kind of back and forth sometimes, like when you're parenting, it's like hard to know with the devices and screens and stuff, like how much is too much, how much is acceptable. Like I've said, when he watches YouTube before, there's all kinds of garbage on YouTube that I think is like really bad and like actively harmful. The shouty gaming guys and stuff like that. But a lot of the time I look at what he's looking at on YouTube and it's like just the things that he's interested in, just these like rabbit holes about like comic books or drawing or like he looks at videos of like Disney storyboards and seeing how the storyboard becomes the animation and early ideas for stuff. And I feel like that's okay. You know, that's just stuff that he's just really learning about stuff that he's really, really interested in, which is like art, animation, comics, filmmaking, that kind of stuff. A lot of the time that's what he's doing. And that's the thing. It's like I don't think it's really good when I see parents like just throwing screens in front of their kids at restaurants or whatever. I see parents like pushing their strollers and their kids are swiping away on an iPad or a phone or whatever. Not judging anyone on any other parents here, but like that I feel like is probably not so good. But that's it. Like when he's on his iPad, like that's what he's working on stuff. He's like using these like tools on there to create really interesting things. I think that's really cool. He becomes a masculinist influencer. He's going to join the manosphere. Maybe he'll be part of Canada's long animation history someday. I hope so. I mean, this is really the stuff that he's obsessed with. And I think, like, as a parent, you have to encourage that when you see your kids kind of fixating on something like that. And just like, yeah, giving him tools to be able to do that. Yeah, when I was 8, I had Scotch tape and paper cups. Yeah, that's part of the thing. So I've always been obsessed with filmmaking and that kind of thing, but there's really the ability now to like create things that were just not really possible before. You know? Oh yeah, these are cool. These are cool, Kijiji. I'll save these. Save these for later. It's so heartwarming to see your kids start directing their own education. My daughter's in the phase where she reads anything she can, signs, packaging, whatever. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, that's it. My kid's also always reading comics and Calvin and Hobbes and all that stuff. He loves to read. Really loves to read. Yeah, remember we had to take film to get it developed. Yeah. I'm still sore about this because I got a camcorder when I was probably like, 12, 13 or something like that. And I made so much stuff with that, which I just don't have anymore. Including a whole summer, the whole like 6 months of like 1999. I brought my camcorder everywhere. I think I've talked about this before. I brought my camcorder like everywhere when I was like 16. In 1999, there was like a 6 month period that I documented like obsessively of like me and my high school friends. And I just don't have the tape anymore. Like I would, like if I could find it, it would be like a time capsule. Like that content is actually really popular on YouTube and everything. Like I would give anything to find that again. It would be weird, but it would be very funny as well. You could see a little 6 month period of my life when I was like 16 years old, going to parties with my weird high school friends. I still credit Calvin and Hobbes for putting a lot of ideas in my brain. Yeah. Calvin and Hobbes is the best thing to give to a kid of a certain age to read. It makes sophistication and good aesthetics appealing to kids. It's a gold mine for development. Yeah, and it's stories that little kids can appreciate, but it's written at a fairly high level. Like it's like a fairly high reading level and a lot of like, a more advanced vocabulary and interesting ideas as well. I think I've talked about it before, but it's so surreal, like being a kid and being into Calvin and Hobbes and identifying with Calvin and then reading it 30 years later with your child and identifying with the dad. It's just bizarre. It's a really bizarre feeling. One of my best buds, he might even be lurking here, gifted me a stack of Calvin and Hobbes from his childhood collection. Yes, I still have like all those. Yeah, the mom is great too. Love that stuff. Anyway, that's pretty much everything to update you on. That was my weekend. The live thing was good. I will post one more time I'll post one more time the live show that we did. I'm going to go ahead and post that right now in case you want to hear that. It's really good stuff. Very first Calvin and Hobbes book came out in 87 and my first real high school boyfriend gifted it to me. Nice. Premium BF. I've been listening to your TRRS live soundtrack on Bandcamp a lot. It's so good. Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Rob, where do you stand on the DoorDash issue? I think I've talked about it before, but I think I've talked about it before. I think DoorDash and all these apps should be nationalized. They should just be nationalized. It should, whether it's the post office or whatever. I think these apps are like, the technology is good. I think it's like people need or don't necessarily need, but I think that should just be a good job. You should be able to get a good job and earn a decent salary delivering food or whatever else. You should be able to do that job and get paid a decent salary and have healthcare and vacation time and all the benefits that you get from having a decent unionized job, like if you worked at the post office or whatever. So I think all those should be nationalized. Like, I get why people use them. Like, I wish people would just fucking use their apps and stop trying to make it about some kind of like moral thing. Like, not only do people want to use the apps, the gig slave apps, but they have to like spin it to be this like moral thing, you know? It's like, no, I'm using it, but I'm still a good person. Like, just use it. Just, if you really have to use it, then just use it. We don't need to do discourse about it, you know? We don't need to do this big discourse. You don't need to get people to like congratulate you. And this whole thing of like, because listen, I'm disabled, okay? I have physical disabilities and I have mental disabilities as well. This whole idea that like, oh, I'm ADHD, I can't do my own groceries. Like, I'm sorry. Yes, you can. Like, what were people doing 5-6 years ago? They were just starving. They just couldn't go to the grocery store. Like, you know what I mean? Am I wrong? Is that being insensitive? I think you can still go to the grocery store. You know? I think you can. Obviously, some people are too disabled to be able to be physically mobile or to do these kinds of things. You know? But I think a lot of the people that are online making these kinds of arguments are not that. I just think it's weird to use this moment to worry that some comrades have slightly bad habits. Well, I agree with that as well. I just don't think we need to do discourse about it. You know what I mean? Just use the app. If you really have to use DoorDash or whatever app to get groceries or restaurant delivery or whatever, just use it. Use it and tip the delivery person as well as you can. And you just don't need to go online and talk about how it's like, I need to do this and I'm still a good person, you know? It's like, no one just tip well and use the app and you can just not talk about it. You know what I mean? I'm literally a girl. You can't tell me to go to the grocery store. Again, I'm saying this as a non-able-bodied or able-minded person, okay? Like sometimes I am in so much physical pain that no, I can't go to the grocery store. You know? So I get it. Even though often when I'm in physical pain, I'll just go because I'm just one of those guys that I just suck it up and just exist in pain a lot of the time. That's kind of what I do. I don't think that's necessarily a good way to go through life. I'm not recommending that people do that. This is just part of my like waspy upbringing, I guess. What we should nationalize is free cooking classes. Well, that too. Yeah, absolutely. And people don't have time. Like it's not even about cooking classes, but people don't have time. If you work 40, 50 hours a week, a lot of the time you don't want to go home and cook a fresh meal. You know? I like it and I have time and the ability to the capacity to cook my own stuff and I like doing that. But not everyone can do it. But that's my point. Just if you really have to use DoorDash or whatever, just fucking use it and stop going online to justify it and like saying like, no, it's like I'm good for doing this. And I would not, if I didn't have these apps, I would just not be able to feed myself or take care of myself. As someone who works with physically disabled people, they don't want to be infantilized as much as these people on Twitter seem to act. They want to hold on to as much autonomy in their daily living as they can and are proud of what they can do. Yeah, I think a lot of the people that are the most adamant about this are like the worst candidates for talking about it, I would say. You know what I mean? I really don't judge people for using these apps. Like I said, I think they're very convenient. I use these delivery apps sometimes. Not really for groceries. I don't like maybe that's a mental thing. I don't like ordering groceries online. I like to physically go and choose things because I don't like relying on someone else to do that. You always don't. I want to be able to look at the meat that's on sale, and I depending on what's on sale and what's there is what it changes what I'm going to get. I don't like having some random person, making these decisions for me. Strange hands touching your meat. Exactly. So yeah, I don't really use it for groceries, but I use delivery apps to get food from restaurants and stuff. Just like I said, I am aware that it's not great for the restaurants, even though it's like a source of income for these restaurants. There's like this unaccountable, shitty Silicon Valley based tech company that's like siphoning up most of the profit from that. And both the restaurant and the person delivering the food is getting screwed over. That's a bullshit situation. That's why I think that does need to change. I think these apps should be nationalized, so when people are working for these companies or delivering food, which is a vital service, it is a really important job. I think they should be compensated fairly for that, and be able to earn a decent living. And like I said, get sick time off, pension, vacation, healthcare, all that stuff. It's a really important job. So that's the thing. I don't judge people for using those apps, but like, let's not also pretend that it's some kind of like moral thing. Like, I remember the last time that this discourse started, it was because someone was like ordered from one of these apps and then like physically went to the grocery store to like stalk the person that was getting the groceries and then complained about the service that they were getting. I think that was one of the things that kicked it off. And it's just like, well, you can just go yourself then. Like, what are you even doing? And then it kicks off this whole like round of discourse. I can't go to the grocery store. I have ADHD. I cannot buy groceries. They guaranteed minimum wage for the app delivery people in Seattle, and boy, people love to complain. And it should be more than minimum wage. Like, it's an important job. This time it started because someone said, why is everyone in my apartment building getting a coffee delivered for $10 every day? That is also something I would not do. Again, I get restaurant delivery on occasion, I get restaurant delivery. I would not get a single coffee or like a single item. I understand that for some people that is necessary. I think some of the people that complain about this, it's not quite as necessary as they make it out to be. But like, no, I'm not going to pay premium so I get one single fucking item from the store. There's so many places to get coffee in our society. Yeah, I would judge that. If you get a single coffee delivered, I'm going to judge that for sure. There are some people who are legitimately disabled, and then there are a bunch of angry, entitled people hiding behind them throwing tantrums because the specific brand they wanted wasn't available. Yeah, that's it. And that's what I mean. I wouldn't complain about my grocery app person getting things wrong because I just go to the store myself, even if I am physically in pain, which I am often, or even if I do have like mental issues such as ADHD. I would just rather go to the grocery store myself and deal with it, so I don't have to rely on some underpaid person who's really trying to just go as fast as they can because it's the only way that they can earn a living is by doing X number of deliveries, you know? That's the only way that they can even earn a decent living. So no, I'm not going to complain if I'm going to go that route to have someone bring groceries to me. I'm not going to complain about their service. But like I said, I just go to the store myself so I don't have to deal with that. Even when I am limping around, even when I can barely walk, I'll often just go myself. Instant coffee technology is so good now. Like, what are we doing? I think that's weird to me. Yeah. It's really easy to make a cup of coffee. If anything has been made clear of my short life, it's that the loudest assholes are people who pretend what they're being loud about is on behalf of people who wouldn't care about it. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good way of looking at it. I'm on crutches for a while after leg surgery, and even I don't want delivery every day. Shit gets expensive, so I cook as much as I can. Yeah. Jesus. Don't get a single item delivered. Like, come on. Not to mention how many disabled people live on gig app work. That's a good point as well. Yeah. That's part of it as well, too, Sean. Sometimes I feel like people are mad and scared about the world and taking it out on each other. I mean, it does seem like that. Like, it's just, you don't need to do discourse about it, you know? My $15 automatic Mr. Coffee is my motivation to get out of bed in the morning. Yeah, I just have a French press. I don't know how much it even costs. I think my dad gave it to me. It's probably like $30. You just pour boiling water in it and you're good to go. Really easy. So that's what I mean. Use the apps. Don't use the apps. You don't need to go online and like do discourse about it and like use disabled people as like a human shield to like justify the fact that you want a little treat sometimes, you know? That's what I think a lot of it is. Ooh, Chef Rom can boil water. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's really crazy. I'm slightly fancier and use a clever coffee, like a French press with a filter. Well, well, well. Yeah, I make cakes as well. Not going to name names, but very obvious to me that so much of this is just the self-talk of people who are themselves barely holding it together. Yeah, and I get it too. Like, fucking believe me. Believe me, I get it. Just, if you use the apps, just get your treats. Just get your treats, and you don't need to go log on and like pretend, like, tell me I'm still a good person. Please tell me I'm still a good person. Just use your app. Tip the delivery person as much as possible. Get your treat, enjoy your treat, and we don't need to make a big thing of it, you know? We don't need to make a big thing of it. It's so brave that you use an app to order treats. I know. It's like, what do you want to throw you a party? Congratulations. That's it. Like, I have ADHD. I have physical disabilities. I hate when people do my groceries for me. You know? I hate that. And if I ordered groceries and someone messed it up, I'd be like, you know, this is the fault of the fucking, the fact that this person is not being paid a decent wage, you know, and they're really hurrying to go as fast as they can to fulfill this so they can actually earn a living from doing this important job. I pay a subscription to get groceries delivered because I can't walk well enough to get it all done, and I take care of my parents. I understand and expect them to fuck up at least one thing in every order because their job sucks shit. No one's going to care that much if they aren't being paid. I wouldn't. Of course not. Of course not. Like, What can I do? I can take an extra 20 minutes to make sure this is absolutely perfect, this order, and not make a actual profit from this, like not even make enough money to pay for the gas that I'm using to do this. Or I'm just going to go as quick as I can to fill this order so I can maybe at the end of the day accumulate enough income that I can like afford dinner myself. You know? They don't know which bananas I like. No. So if someone asked for my take, that's my take. You know, if you have to use the apps, get your treats and just enjoy your treats, and you don't need to like act like you're some kind of like heroic figure for doing this. Try not to internalize and individualize the harm, the lack of living wages the company's not providing, and make it about ordering or not ordering. Yeah, I think that's the most reductive way of going about it. What are your thoughts on Ohtani? Did Blue Jays dodge a bullet? It's pretty interesting, isn't it? With Ohtani, like he might be suspended or like, because this very flimsy story is rapidly falling apart. Like it's actually going to be a pretty big deal, probably. Oh, for sure. Absolutely, the interpreter was the fall guy. Yeah, and he's like they can't. They're going to be in a bind because they can't really suspend him. This guy is like one of the most talked about and like discussed athletes in the world. But they might have to. Context, please. So Shohei Ohtani, who's like was the biggest free agent this year in baseball. He's probably like, is he I don't even know how to describe him. He's the most unique baseball player that has come around in generations. He's a really good pitcher and he dings lots of home runs, which is just like, he's a total freak. Yeah. It's basically unheard of, the things that he does. The best player of the modern era, maybe ever. Like it's completely unheard of. And he signed a huge contract with the LA Dodgers this summer. And now there's this big scandal because what he claims, he's Japanese and he has this interpreter that was like part of his like team. And he claims that this interpreter basically illegally took several million dollars from him to place bets, offshore bets. And I think the more that this excuse gets scrutinized, it's going to show that this guy is just like a fall guy. This is like they expect one of us in the wreckage, brother. It's the Bane thing. Like the interpreter is the fall guy for the fact that Ohtani is betting huge amounts of money. Which is Michael Jordan vibes. Absolutely. And they might do the Michael Jordan thing where he might just take a year off. He might just have to take a year off, you know? The odds rising. They should give him an American citizenship for gambling this hard. Well, this is another funny aspect and angle of that story as well, where sports betting now is such a deeply ingrained part of sports at this point. It's totally encouraged. It's like you watch the games and they're talking about like the odds and the spread and the over under, and it's all sponsored by these gambling apps, and the ESPN recaps are sponsored by the gambling apps. It is basically a pillar of the US economy. It's like part of the only US economy that's still flourishing. So on the one hand, you have this like sports betting now is no longer like, it's no longer this like gray market thing that you don't talk about. It's deeply, deeply interconnected like with the sports world. And now you're going to have this controversy with Shohei Ohtani, who's betting on games, and it's going to lead to this big, if this story continues to fall apart, you know, there could be big repercussions. But like I said, he brings in so much he brings in so many eyeballs and so much money to Major League Baseball. It's like they for sure don't want to get rid of him or suspend him or anything like that, but they may be forced to, especially if he's betting on games that he's himself is playing in. Were the bets on him losing? Well, I haven't looked into that too much, but I mean, that's another way that like sports betting is totally infecting sports news, because now you know all the players are aware of like the spreads and all this stuff, and it's almost impossible for it not to have like an impact on the actual people playing the games. People should maybe ask fewer questions about this. I think this is like the MLB stance. I think they would love to just make this go away. The U.S. state I live in recently legalized sports betting, and the advertisement for it in the wake of legalization was insane. I mean, Steve, just the way, or Stone Corbell, excuse me. I thought your comment disappeared off my screen, and I thought it said Steve. I apologize for calling you Steve. But just the way this has become so deeply implicated in the sports world, I think has happened so quickly. Like when you watch the Super Bowl. Yeah, it's part of the broadcast. The whole Super Bowl 2 years ago was all crypto. This year, it's all betting. It's all gambling. They made steroids scandal just go away with no real consequences. And for sure, I'm sure that's happening all over. Like, I'm sure LeBron James is on the juice. I don't think there's any, like, physically, the longevity that he's had in his career, 20 years at peak physical condition, unless he's just a physical freak, I'm sure he's been taking some stuff, you know? But do you think the NBA would ever want to talk about that? No, of course not. I'm waiting to see which betting website Matt Damon endorses. Jordan played every game, but yeah, he played every game for 12 years, and his last 2 years, he was an old man. Athletes who don't cheat just don't want to win bad enough. For sure. Well, you might as well. I mean, it's like for things like injury prevention, you know, it's like it can really help. It can speed up recovery times for injuries or like prevent injuries. It should just be out in the open. Like, let's just be honest about this. To be fair, LeBron hasn't played defense since 2018. You can talk about that. You can talk about how he takes whole like aspects of this season off. But what is he averaging, like however many, like 35 minutes a game for 20 straight years? Like that's so much. Like his lead in terms of minutes. Le China is my favorite LeBron James nickname. It's also standard for every pitcher to get Tommy John surgery now because they're ruining their arms, including Shohei Ohtani. Right? So I don't know. I think it's strange. I think on one hand, you've like completely not only normalized gambling, but it's like now sports gambling and betting is like a central aspect of like sports culture in America. And they're going to sit around and talk about Shohei Ohtani's like betting scandal in all these segments that are sponsored by like FanDuel and DraftKings and that kind of stuff. But again, he's like the most the most famous baseball player, the best player of the modern era. He's like he's an attraction. And so it will probably end up being a pretty big scandal if they keep digging into this and looking into this. I'm sure MLB was going to want it to go away, but now you've got a lot of sports journalists that are going to look into this story and are going to notice that it's going to fall apart at the basic scrutiny. Oh, his translator just like stole $4 million. His translator just somehow stole $4 million. Like, it's not actually easy to do that, I don't think, in my understanding. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens. A field day. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we're firing off takes on some important items here. I should just remind people while we're talking about our ridiculous fake economy that if you enjoy this program, folks, please subscribe if you can. I'm going to get to talking about this UN vote soon. As you know, in this ridiculous fake scam economy, in order for me to earn a living and be able to afford groceries and rent and that stuff, I must make this little number at the bottom of the screen.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
I must make this little number at the bottom of the screen go up every single day. It's the only way that I can continue doing this show. So if you enjoy this program, like our very good friend Kijiji Genie, Kijiji, thank you so much for 5 gifted subs. That's very, very, very kind of you. Thank you, Kijiji Genie. And if you too want to support this program and become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle system, please do subscribe. You can subscribe for $5 a month, or if you have Amazon Prime, you can use that to convert that to a Twitch Prime subscription. Totally free of charge. You can also gift subs, and when you gift 5 subs and above, that instantly makes you an elite member of the Friendship Triangle system. So if you can, please do subscribe. Once again, it's the only way that I can do this show each and every day is if the little number goes up. This show is entirely funded by the community members. That's the only way that it's it's been able to stay on the air now, going on 4 years, is through the extreme generosity of this community. So if you can, please do subscribe. Ever since I became an elite member, I feel a growing sense of this Friendship Triangle not being a cult. That's the way it works. That is the way it works. We must fund Rob's DoorDash order. Honestly, so I don't use DoorDash. When I do use one of those apps, I use Skip the Dishes. Sometimes Uber Eats. I must admit though, yeah, I never really use that just to do like the basic like convenience store thing or like a single item or anything like that. I really don't use it.
This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual and I found this.
David TRRS, thanks for the raid. I appreciate it.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And thanks for the 7.
Gotta get to some grass touching, so I had to dip early. Everyone slub a dub TRRS Rob knife.
David Tavares, thanks very much for the 7 months. Tier 1, I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Thank you for that. And thanks for the raid. I hope the stream was good. Enjoy the grass touching. Yeah, so I didn't, like, even though yesterday was like a lazy day, it was a treat yourself day, I didn't order any food. I did go out and I spent too much money, and that's why I'm trying not to spend money today or tomorrow because I spent way too much on restaurant food. Although I did physically go myself to pick it up. I did not use any of the apps to get that over here. But I'm going to try not to spend money today or tomorrow because I got a little crazy with the treating myself yesterday. So would anyone else like to subscribe to this program before we move on? 7 subs out of 35. Trying to make the little number go up. Trying every single day to will that little number to go up. You can help me. You can help keep the show on the air.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Sam, that's very kind of you. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
You can count on me. You're going to have good
Very
old
kind of
Rob
you, Sam.
to
Thank you
talk
for
you
that.
through all this. You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
And thank you, Sikalufakis, for 27 months of Prime. Thank you, Sikalufakis. Very, very kind of you. And thank you, Echo Waves, as well.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
5 gifted subs from Echo Waves. Very kind of you. Very first 5 gifted subs in the channel. Instantly rockets right up to the very tippy top of the Friendship Triangle system. Echo Waves, thank you so, so much for that. Very, very kind of you. And thanks to Dimitri as well for the 200 bits. Thanks, Dimitri. I just got here. We talked about the U.S. calling the new UNSC resolution non-binding today. No, we haven't really gotten into the UN stuff. That's what I was planning on getting into next. I think there's things you can point out, like the U.S. not vetoing this, but not voting yes. Still, I think a pretty significant victory. And you can tell that it's significant because Israel is pissed off about it. So I think we can and should talk about that. Let me just get through. We got a hype train here. Let me get through this hype train. I'll take a short break and I'll come back and we'll talk about the UN vote. And I'm sure there's some good content to take in on that as well. So we are 28% through this level 4. We've officially moved beyond brow furrowing. That's right. We've moved beyond brow furrow. I mean, it's something. It's like we're so used to just nothing being changed and nothing being contributed to. You can count on me.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
It's got fairly neutral language on the release hostages section, so it could apply to hostages held by Israel. Yeah, and
we simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
I know the U.S. wanted to include a Hamas condemnation as well, which didn't end up happening. Which that is incredible to me too. 6 months into this genocide, still getting fixated on held up by condemning Hamas. This is really the priority right now. This is really the priority. We must make sure we're continuing to condemn Hamas after over 30,000 people have been murdered. Not another bean stain. Thanks for the 8 months of Prime. I really appreciate that. And Dirty Mullet as well. Thanks for the 200 bits. Look at me. Look at that. Look at that. You see that? Look at that. Anyway, we're gonna get into this. Let's just mullets are so in right now. That's right. I'm a trendsetter yet again. You think that's a clean mullet? Okay. One minute left in this hype train, folks. Is there anyone else that wants to subscribe to this program? Any other beautiful, brave heroes want to subscribe to this program?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Godless Donut, thanks for the tier 1 sub. Very kind of you. Thank you. Very much appreciated. And we got 30 seconds left. Got 30 seconds left. If there's any other brave heroes that want to subscribe to this program.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Oh my, Genghis Khan. Thank you so much for 5 gifted subs, Genghis. Very, very kind of you. Very much appreciated. Thank you for that. Should mention too, we got new merch coming. Old Dutch just did an absolutely incredible merch design. I'm extremely hyped about it. I think it's ready to go. That's going to be up, I think, this week sometime. And it's extremely cool. I have heard of that, Jay. I didn't watch like the video with the angle and anything. I didn't watch it, but that is something that I've been wanting to keep my eye on, definitely. I'm going to check that out. Anyway, I'm just going to take a short break here. Take a little break, get some water, walk around a little bit. I'll come back in just a moment, and we can talk about this UN vote and some other good stuff. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Not this. Not this. This. Okay. So don't go anywhere, folks. Again, just give me a moment. I guess the US abstained knowing they could get it as non-binding. I still feel like it's pretty significant. Like that was the best that ever happened in terms of like US support for Israel at the UN was an abstention on a vote in the end of the Obama era about these settlements. So it's like, no, it's not enough. Yes, it's absurd. It still does represent a sort of progress, or it represents something, you know? Like that's the thing. We can get into this. I don't know if it is a kayfabe thing, because like I think Israel is genuinely. I think they generally do. Okay, why is that there? We don't need that. Okay. Like I think they're genuinely pissed off. I think they genuinely think America, after abstaining on this, like supports Hamas. Like I think they actually think that. They just canceled a visit. They just canceled a visit to America that they were going to do. And like, they're not doing that to help out Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. You know, they're not doing this kayfabe so that America gets credit or Joe Biden gets credit for stopping this thing. You know? Like, I think they're actually genuinely pissed off about it. They wouldn't be doing this just to like help Biden or help give Biden plausible deniability. I think they're genuinely actually pissed off about it. They do want Trump, absolutely. Anyway, let's talk about this in a couple minutes. Just give me a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're not allowed to leave. Don't leave. It's important to realize that everyone in the Israeli ruling class is a delusional, genocidal freak. Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Hello. Okay. You know, I don't know why. I have no idea why. But like last night, I was enjoying my sandwich. And, you know, I had a nice, crisp, cool Diet Coke with my sandwich. For whatever reason, I felt like I had to drink it out of a fancy glass. So I was hanging out, I was watching the 3 Body Problem, and I just had to drink my Diet Coke out of a fancy glass. Sometimes it just hits different like that. I don't know why. This is not Diet Coke, obviously. Is the 3 Body Problem show good? I read the books and they ruled. I talked a little bit about it earlier in the stream, Sam. I think it's worth watching. There were things about it that I didn't like, that I thought was particularly the stuff that deals with like revolutionary China. I find that pretty cringe. Overall, still things that I enjoyed about it, though. We got some classics here in movie night. Highlander, War of the Roses, Aliens. Sorry, not War of the Roses, the Name of the Rose. Name of the Rose. I love to pour Coke in a wine glass. It's so fun. It just gives it a little bit of a different vibe, you know? It's nice. Trump's legal bond got reduced to 145K. Oh, that's great. That's great. Movies made before I was born. They're for pretentious film bros. Let's not get started on that whole thing. The idea that like anyone that would watch a foreign movie is like a fucking pretentious, like artsy douchebag. This guy watches movies in other languages other than English. Get him. Get him. Look, and there's Shogun. I've been watching this as well. The new one. I was totally perplexed by the whole thing with the pheasant the other day. The whole pheasant situation. I was so confused by it, but I have been enjoying that though. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Let's see what I can find to set up this UN vote.
I want to express my deepest condolences To the families and loved ones of last week's terrorist attack in Moscow, we condemn terrorism in all its forms.
Probably something else we need to talk about a little bit too, don't we?
And stand in solidarity with the Russian people in grieving the loss of life from this horrific.
Apparently it was a 17th century thing to let pheasants and other fowl hang out to rot before cooking because it made the meat taste better. I think I get that. I don't think they did a really good job of making sure that the viewer understood this. That was my kind of main thing. I did love the U.S. media going wild about them being roughed up. I don't even really disagree, but yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's some really gruesome stuff. I think they cut off one of these guys' ears. You know, it's fucked up. But I guess my point is that if that's your principle, you have to have that principle all the time. Because a lot of these people, when you had like Russian POWs being abused and tortured, a lot of these West people in America and Canada are like, yeah, get them. They're Russian. They deserve it. Fuck them. They invaded. They invaded Ukraine. They deserve it. So it's like, if that's your stance, well, you can't really act like you're all scandalized, you know, when they act in the same way. Apparently, the GoPro footage of these terrorists as well is absolutely horrifying. I haven't sought that out or anything, and I don't intend to, but apparently it's some pretty fucking horrifying stuff. Anyway, we'll try to make some time to talk about that more at length.
Event. Colleagues, today this council spoke out in support of the ongoing diplomatic efforts led by the United States, Qatar, Egypt, to bring about an immediate and sustainable ceasefire, secure the immediate release of all hostages, and help alleviate the tremendous suffering of Palestinian civilians in Gaza who are in dire need of protection and life-saving humanitarian assistance. The United States fully supports these critical objectives. In fact, they were the foundation of the resolution we put forward last week.
Will we do anything to actually compel Israel to allow aid into Gaza? Well, no. Obviously not. But we're very concerned about it, though.
Resolution that Russia and China vetoed. But colleagues, the United States' support for these objectives is not simply rhetorical. We're working around the clock to make them real, on the ground, through diplomacy, because we know that it is only through diplomacy that we can push this agenda forward. We're getting closer to a deal for an immediate ceasefire with the release of all hostages, but we're not there yet. Now let's be clear. A ceasefire could have come about months ago if Hamas had been willing to release hostages.
If you hadn't been vetoing every single one of them. They vetoed, I don't know how much, 6 or 7 different ceasefire resolutions.
Instead, Hamas continues to stand in the way of peace, to throw up roadblocks, cower in tunnels beneath Gaza cities and behind under civilian infrastructure and hide among the civilian population.
We can have a ceasefire if Hamas surrenders to the occupation. That's right. If they just give up every single bit of leverage they have and voluntarily submit and lay down their arms, then you can have a ceasefire. Easy.
So today my ask to members of this council and to member states in every region of the world is this: speak out and demand unequivocally that Hamas accepts the deal on the table. Now, I hope I'm wrong, I really do, but I don't expect that from Russia and China, especially because they still can't bring themselves to condemn Hamas's terrorist attacks on October 7th. Just last week, Russia and China vetoed a resolution that condemned this horrific attack, a resolution the vast majority of this council supported. They have shown time and time again that they are not actually interested in advancing a durable peace through
Yeah, I have the
diplomatic
clip
efforts.
of China
Nor
after
for all
this.
their rhetoric are they interested in making any meaningful contributions to humanitarian efforts. Instead, they are using this devastating conflict as a political cudgel to try to divide this council at a time when we need to come together.
I think it's your closest
It is
ally
deeply,
doing
deeply
genocide is the thing
cynical,
that's
and we should
dividing the
all see
council.
through it. Colleagues, we appreciated the willingness of members of this council to take some of our edits and improve on this resolution. Still, certain key edits were ignored, including our request to add a condemnation of Hamas. And we did not agree with everything in the resolution. For that reason, we were unfortunately not able to vote yes. However, as I've said before, we fully support some of the critical objectives in this non-binding resolution. And we
Talking about
believe
daddy's drinking
it was
hurts the family.
important for the council to speak out and make clear that our any ceasefire must come with the release of all hostages. Indeed, as I've said before, the only path to a durable end to this conflict is the release of all hostages. Critically, a ceasefire and the
When they
release
say
of
all
hostages
hostages, who are they
will
referring
allow
to,
much
though?
more humanitarian aid to get into Gaza at a time when famine is looming large, and provide an opportunity
When
to
we
work
veto
toward
the
a
resolution, it's totally
sustainable
reasonable. That's right.
cessation of hostilities, toward a future where Hamas can no longer threaten Israel and never repeat October 7th, and no longer control Gaza and use civilians as shields.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be no
Toward
more
a
armed
future where
struggle after that.
Palestinians and Israelis live side by side in peace in two democratic states of their own. Something that
Their
will
own
never
ally,
happen
Israel,
with
has nothing to.
Hamas,
They don't want anything
a
to do with
terrorist
that.
organization dedicated to the destruction of Israel and the killing of Jews. A terrorist organization this body still fails to condemn, controlling Gaza. Colleagues,
Yeah, there's going to be no
we
more
meet
armed
during the
struggle
holy
after
month of
Hamas is
Ramadan.
gone.
This should be a season of
Once
peace.
once
for Muslim
Hamas is gone, once Hamas has surrendered and there's no more Hamas, Palestinians will simply just submit to being occupied and dehumanized and murdered and assaulted and arrested and raped and all that stuff. They'll simply just meekly accept that. And they will no longer engage in any kind of acts of resistance or violence. They'll just meekly submit. This whole thing, like once Hamas is gone, then you can have these two states that'll exist side by side. No, you can't. Not when Israel is expressly 100% opposed to this very idea, which they've made totally clear. It's in the Likud charter from decades ago. They're not interested in having a separate democratic state. And even the US's vision for like a Palestinian state is one that's demilitarized with no ability to actually defend itself in any way. Israel is labeling this as anti-Semitic pro-Hamas. Exactly. And that's how you know it's not kayfabe, though, I think, as well. Like, just even with all this bullshit, just the fact that they abstained on this and didn't veto it does actually, I think, represent a big step forward. Yeah, the settlements, those are the human shields. Those are the human shields.
communities around the world. Just as October 7th, Simchat Torah, should have been a day of peace for Jewish communities. This resolution rightly acknowledges that during the month of Ramadan, we must recommit to peace. Hamas can do that by accepting the deal on the table. A ceasefire can begin immediately with the release of the first hostage. And so we must put pressure on Hamas to do just that. This is the only path to securing a ceasefire and the release of hostages, as we have all called for today. That is what this resolution means. A ceasefire of any duration must come with the release of hostages. This is the only path. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of the United States for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of Slovenia.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Today is an important day. Most of all,
Do you really
we
want to
hope
hear
it
from
will signal an
Slovenia?
important day for the people of the Middle East. A day that will help silence the guns, stop the killing, free the hostages, as well as bring some calm to and clear the sky over Gaza. The day that marks the beginning of the end of pain and suffering of civilians. This is a significant day for the elected members. We found our voice of an unifying force inside the Council. This is the reason why we are on the Council. We showed the leadership for peace. And it is a good day for the whole Council.
So just to explain what's happened here, the UN Security Council has approved a resolution on Gaza demanding an immediate ceasefire. And in fact, Antonio Guterres has tweeted saying it has just approved a long-awaited
zero accountability for
an
Israel.
immediate ceasefire and the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. This resolution must be implemented. Failure would be unforgivable. That's Antonio Guterres confirming what we have seen there, a vote in which the United States abstained and therefore didn't vote yes, but didn't use its veto, and all the other permanent members and other members voted in favour, including, of course, China. This, of course, has been long discussed. There was a vote on Friday. Now this vote has been finally agreed on, and it is clearly designed to put pressure on all sides to say the international community is pressing for a ceasefire and hostage release. The US ambassador there saying a ceasefire can start with the release of the first hostages, and this is the only path. She repeatedly said any ceasefire has to be linked to the release of those Israeli hostages. John Sudworth is in New York for us. John, this is a big moment in terms of the international diplomatic pressure on all sides.
I think that's right. This will be seen as a very significant moment. The vote today, of course, follows numerous failed attempts to get similar language through the Security Council. That key phrase, an immediate ceasefire, often having proven to have been a stumbling block. The United States, on numerous occasions, using its veto. The last attempt, just on Friday of last week, Russia and China using their veto. But today it was passed.
I want to look at this Chinese response.
After repeated vetoes of the Council actions, the United States finally decided to stop obstructing the Council's demand for an immediate ceasefire. Despite all this, the U.S. still tried to find all kinds of excuses and made accusations against China. The eyes of the international community are open and discerning. The accusations of the U.S. are untenable. On the contrary, it's because of China and other countries concerned, because of our upholding of principles and justice, then we force the U.S. to realize that it cannot continue to obstruct the efforts of the Council to move in the right direction and take the decisive step. And justice will prevail.
Get her ass. We've got an Al Jazeera piece on it. Let's take a look at that. Like I said, regardless of all the things we can and should criticize about America's stance on this, the very fact that they've abstained and didn't veto does indicate that they're feeling the pressure. I think I'm not going to give anyone credit. Genocide Joe doesn't get any credit for supporting this for the last 6 months. America doesn't get any credit for this. Who should get credit, though, are the activists, the uncommitted campaign, the people that are out there in the streets every single week, the folks that have been putting real pressure on the Biden administration. I think this is a victory for them. It's hollow. It's not enough. We should be cynical. We should recognize that it's not enough. It's not good enough. It is something though. Like, I think it's pretty seismic. Like I said, the only other time at the UN the US has ever abstained and not use their veto was at the end of the Obama administration, when they abstained on a vote about these illegal settlements. So this is a big kind of this is a pretty big shift here, and an indication that they are feeling at least some of the pressure. And I think we can recognize that while not pretending that like the work is finished, or that like this is going to lead to lasting peace right away. I think it is indicative of a shift that's happening though.
Is the situation in the Middle East, including the Palestinian question. The agenda is adopted. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representatives of Israel and Yemen to participate in this meeting. It is so decided.
Yeah, and this is an important point as well. I write lump. Despite abstaining and not vetoing this, the House budget just finalized UNRWA defunding and legislating defunding the UN if the ICC investigates war crimes against Israel. Yeah, and basically maintains that the entire existence of the Palestinian state, such as it is completely reliant on them never encouraging any of these investigations. And defunding UNRWA in the spending bill during a time when millions of people are being starved intentionally. Like, that is fucking insane. No, there's provisions in this spending bill about any war crimes investigations or any interrogation at all about Israel's actions. There's elements of this spending bill put into place to punish Palestinians if there's ever any kind of an investigation into Israeli criminality.
I propose that the Council invite the permanent observer of the Observer State of Palestine to the United Nations to participate in the meeting in accordance with the provisional rules of procedure and previous practice in this regard. There be no objection. It is so decided.
Just imagine if journalists were allowed in Gaza, what other horrors would be uncovered. I mean, the stories that are coming out of Al-Shifa Hospital right now are too grotesque to almost even talk about.
Members of the Council have before them document S/2024/254, the text of a draft resolution submitted by Algeria, Ecuador, Guyana, Japan, Malta, Mozambique, Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, Slovenia, and
It
Switzerland.
is barbarism.
The Council is ready.
Yeah, it's not. That's it, Relic. It's not defunding the UN, but defunding the Palestinian Authority if they ever support a case against Israel at the ICC. And I think this is just the speeches. I thought it was maybe more analysis.
Proceed to the Council is ready to proceed to the vote on the draft resolution before it. I now give the floor to those members of the Council who wish to make statements before the vote. I give the floor to the representative of Mozambique.
Mr. President, I have the honor to introduce this draft resolution on behalf of the 10 elected members of the Security Council, namely Algeria, Ecuador, Guyana, Japan, Malta, Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, Slovenia, Switzerland, and my own country, Mozambique. We wish to commend the presidency of Japan for convening this meeting in order to take action on this important resolution on the Middle East, including the Palestinian question. We express our deep appreciation to all members of this Council for their efforts and inputs on this draft resolution aimed at ending the catastrophic situation in the Gaza Strip. Mr. President, the situation in Gaza is a matter of grave concern to the
I would encourage people to read the accounts of doctors as well. Doctors that have spent time in Gaza and the kind of things that they're saying.
Conflict in the Gaza Strip and
like we've created a hell on earth.
Are a clear threat to international peace and security. In this context, the
Solar, I agree.
Felt compelled to table this draft resolution before you.
That's what's so preposterous about this whole idea of like condemning Hamas. I know we're gonna once Hamas is gone, then there's gonna be peace. Like it's just preposterous. It's just preposterous.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And this is something I spoke
Thanks
to.
Thanks for covering this like always, 07.
Oh, thanks, Hey Duke. Thanks for the 12 months of Prime. 1 entire year. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's one of the things I talked to with the Vijay Prashad. Like, there's not going to be more armed groups. And there's people in Palestine, in Gaza, that would tell you Hamas is a moderating force. There's more extreme groups that were already gaining prevalence prior to October. We're not going to, you're going to get rid of Hamas and then there's going to be no more armed struggle. Even the kids that are lucky enough to live through this are not going to join the next armed group or the next extremist group. What would any of us do? What would any of us do if our children were murdered, if our parents were murdered, or our sisters or brothers or aunts or uncles or nephews or cousins were murdered? Oh, Hamas is gone, so we're just going to all live in harmony now. We're just going to go live in harmony. We're going to go back to the average everyday violence and dehumanization and humiliation of the occupation prior to October 7th, but now with no armed groups, now with no leverage whatsoever. No, that's a great deal. And they're going to criticize Palestinians for not taking that deal. Where can I watch the VJ conversation? You can watch it as a VOD on Twitch. It should be up on YouTube later today if you want to watch it on YouTube. You can also listen to it in podcast form on the 49th Parahell podcast. Should be up on YouTube later, though.
Of this council, individually and collectively, have a mandate under the Charter to work for the maintenance of international peace and security. And their actions impact the entire international community. This is the strong conviction that led to the drafting of the text that we are considering.
I know this seems... Sorry, let me just... here. Because my chat... Where is it? I know this seems very lib, but I watched the Hunger Games Part 3 yesterday, and the scenes where they take them to their old district flattened, very emotional. I mean, it's just... I don't think it is lib to notice that, Solo Defrag, but I think it's amazing how much these like storytelling tropes exist in our pop culture, whether you're talking about Star Wars or Hunger Games or any of that stuff, and the way people can't see the connection when it's like staring them right in the fucking face. And we go to see films where we celebrate terrorism, we celebrate armed struggle, armed resistance against these oppressive occupying powers, and we fill multiplexes with these movies. These movies make millions and millions of dollars. And then when the actual situation happens in actual reality, we go, oh, we must condemn these people. Like, it's really amazing, isn't it? How can anyone watch Hunger Games and not link that to real life armed resistance? And I wonder if that's a reason that a lot of younger people, though, as well, are not being swayed by this kind of propaganda. Maybe that is one of the reasons. Are we the baddies? This is the question. This is the question that no one seems to want to ask. Most propagandized country in the world. Absolutely. But we're immune, though. We wouldn't be propagandized. If someone tried to do propaganda to us, we'd say, no, thank you. No, thank you. We would just say, we would politely decline the propaganda.
This morning, this council has been consistently unanimous in its agreement on the obligation.
Later, I think you brought this propaganda to the wrong table.
In conflict to respect international law, including international humanitarian law and international human rights law. D10 have always supported the call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza as a fundamental step. For this reason, and in respect for the holy month of Ramadan, we have proposed the present resolution that demands an immediate ceasefire during this sacred period, leading to a permanent and sustainable ceasefire. At the same time, the draft resolution demands the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages and emphasizes that humanitarian access must be allowed to address their medical and other humanitarian needs. These have been among our key demands for weeks. The draft resolution further demands that the parties comply with their obligations under international law, as we said before, including international humanitarian law and human rights law. The draft resolution also emphasizes the need for the parties to abide by the pertinent resolutions adopted by this Council, including resolutions 2712 and 2720 of 2023. D10 have adopted a consultative approach during the negotiation process of this text. We have consulted extensively and in good faith with all members of this Council in a frank, open, and flexible manner with the aim of achieving a text that addresses the situation in Gaza. The adoption of this draft resolution will certainly be another important step this Council can build upon to comprehensively address the crisis in Gaza. Given the utmost urgency of the situation, we call upon all members of this Council, all and each member of this Council, to vote in favor of this resolution. While this resolution is crucial, it is essential that we continue.
What did Canada's dipshit ambassador have to say? I don't know. Good question.
A comprehensive ceasefire and a lasting peace in the region. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Mozambique for their statement. I give the floor to the representative of Russian Federation.
Господин председатель, мы весьма разочарованы и озадачены.
Extremely stunned and disappointed about the way the work on the draft resolution in the last 24 hours was done. The fact that the word permanent in OP1 relating to a ceasefire is proposed to be replaced by a more weak wording was something we learned about a little more than an hour before the beginning of the meeting. That is unacceptable.
Yeah, that's right. We're not on the Security Council. And we shouldn't be. Why would we be?
The word permanent, and we believe that that is a fundamental
I'm sure we have made some kind of a statement,
the remaining wording leaves too broad
even if we're not part of these discussions on the Security Council. Why would we be on the Security Council? Like we just do what the U.S. tells us. So the idea that we would be on there, that we'd have anything interesting or some different perspective to put out there.
resume its military operation in the Gaza Strip at any moment following the expiry of the ceasefire, which we today hope will be established. In order to avoid this scenario, we would like to make an oral amendment to the text and return the word permanent in OP1. In so doing, it would read as it read in the previously issued resolution, namely,
demands an immediate ceasefire for the month of Ramadan, respected by all parties, leading to a permanent sustainable ceasefire, and also demands the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages, as well as ensuring humanitarian access to address their medical and other humanitarian needs, and further demands that the parties comply with their obligations under international law in relation to all persons they detain. Благодарю вас.
I thank the representative of Russian Federation for their statement. Members of the Council have before them a proposed amendment submitted by Russian Federation to the text of the draft resolution contained in the document S/2024/254, submitted by Algeria, Ecuador, Guyana, Japan, Malta, Mozambique, Republic of Korea, Sierra Leone, Slovenia, and Switzerland. Rule 36 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure states, inter alia, the following. When an amendment adds to or deletes from the text of a motion or draft resolution, that amendment shall be voted on first. Accordingly, I intend to put the proposed amendment to the vote first. Will those in favor of proposed amendment please raise their hand? Against? Abstentions? The result of the voting is as follows. 3 votes in favor, 1 vote against, 11 abstentions. The proposed amendment has not been adopted, having failed to obtain the required number of votes.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Barbara, thank you very much for the gifted sub.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
In the double alert slightly. I don't know what that's about. Barbara, I appreciate it. Thank you. It wasn't vetoed though, because this is the same session that they eventually agreed to abstain rather than veto. Even though, yeah, I think it did affect the language that was in there.
I shall put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024/254 please raise their hand? Those against? Abstention?
Still a pretty seismic shift.
The result of the voting is as follows. 14 votes in favor, 0 vote against, 1
14
abstention.
in favor, 1 abstention. And we already saw the U.S. speech. We saw China had to say. This should be interesting. And now there's their little tantrum. Now they're having a tantrum because even with everything that we've seen, according to the Israeli ruling class, America now is in the Joe Biden administration is completely signaled to the world that they are anti-Semites who love Hamas and think that they're good and they want to hug and kiss them.
Today at the UN, a lot of news. The Security Council passing a resolution for a ceasefire and hostage release resolution in Gaza without condemning Hamas for the October 7th massacre. The U.S. deciding to abstain. According to the
It's amazing how that's framed. 30,000 people killed. Over 30,000. I mean, we who knows what the number is going to be. It's probably significantly more than that. Being very conservative and generously saying over 30,000 killed. And there's still condemning Hamas. Maybe we should condemn The people that have killed the 30,000 people. What about condemning them? Maybe we should start condemning the actions of Israel. Maybe we should start condemning the actions of the IDF. 6 months into this thing, you're starving 2 million people. And we're still haggling over condemning Hamas. Yeah, that's the framing of our mainstream media. That's the number one concern in editorializing right at the beginning to show it. It's amazing.
Resolution for a ceasefire and hostage release resolution in Gaza without condemning Hamas for the October 7th massacre. The U.S. deciding to abstain, according to the White House, letting that resolution pass instead of vetoing it. So Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu says he is now canceling a visit to the U.S. by his top advisor, Ron Dermer, and his national security advisor for meetings that were to happen at the White House and the State Department on Wednesday. Today's resolution demanded an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza during the holy month of Ramadan, which ends in just over 2 weeks.
No, anything but
Joining
that.
us now is NBC's Raf Sanchez from Tel Aviv. And we should point out there is already an Israeli defense delegation.
You can count
here
on me.
for
You're going to
meetings
have
at the
good old
Pentagon.
Rob to talk you through all this.
I barely know,
Hold on. Joe, thank you for the 7 months tier 1. I appreciate it. Thank you.
But there was going to be a much bigger and higher level meeting on Wednesday at the White House involving Ron Dermer, the former longtime ambassador here from Israel and the closest advisor, of course, to Netanyahu. And that is being canceled. Raf?
That's right, Andrea. This is Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's way of signaling his fury that the U.S. allowed this Security Council resolution to pass. The Prime Minister.
Dynamic Nibbles, thanks for the 9 months of tier 1. Thank you, Dynamic Nibbles.
In a statement put out a little while ago, accusing the U.S. of abandoning its position at the UN Security Council, saying he is calling off that visit by one of his closest advisors and Israel's national security advisor, a visit that President Biden specifically requested from him in their phone call at the beginning of last week, their first phone call in more than a month. Israel is also indicating it is not planning to cease fire. The Israeli foreign minister, in just the last couple of minutes, saying the state of Israel will not stop the fire. We will destroy Hamas and continue to fight until the last of the hostages return home. Now, Andrea, this is sort of...
Yeah, they're going to return home in boxes if you can ensure that they don't get food to eat. That's how much they care about the hostages.
Subtle UN Security Council politics you are very familiar with, but just for the benefit of our viewers, the U.S. put up a resolution on Friday calling for an immediate ceasefire linked to the release of the hostages. Today, this resolution put up calling for an immediate ceasefire and the immediate release of the hostages, but not linking the two of them. That is why Netanyahu is saying that the U.S. has abandoned its position. The U.S. ambassador at the United Nations trying to say earlier that the spirit of the resolution is the same.
Even suggesting that what America put out on Friday was a call for a resolution calling for a ceasefire is not even an accurate way of describing it.
Not include that crucial linkage. Now, Hamas is welcoming this resolution, saying that it is prepared to release hostages as long as Israel releases prisoners. But the Israelis at this point
That's
are
so
saying
fucking evil. The way these media psychos use language to manipulate this debate. They said they would release release hostages if Israel releases prisoners. Maybe the hostages are prisoners, you know? They're living in illegal settlements. You know? Those settlements that they're living in are illegal according to international law. They're not supposed to be there. And these prisoners that are in Israeli prisons are often, like we've talked about, little kids. People that have been kept there for years without even being charged with a crime. But no, they're prisoners. And the people that are in Gaza are hostages. The entity turned settlers into the shock troops of its genocidal regime. That's what makes the whole conversation about these kibbutzes on October 7th all the more complicated. Again, Israel put those people in harm's way. Israel uses those people as human shields. The people that live in these communities are often armed as well and are relied on for that exact reason, to be like a first line of defense. Yeah, you wanted to be the tip of the spear. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Don't live in an illegal subdivision outside of a concentration camp, though. It's not a safe place to go live. I think technically those Gaza envelope settlements aren't illegal. I'd asked before as well, but I don't think they have to be illegal to be immoral. Yeah, I guess I need to look more into the details into which of these settlements are legal or not. Maybe I'm wrong about that in terms of the actual legality in terms of international law. But like you're saying, Old Dutch, we're still talking about people that are living in settlements and subdivisions directly outside this open air prison camp filled with 2 million people who cannot leave, or, where Israel controls everything that gets in and out and routinely drops bombs on them, with people living in absolute desperation, with extremely high levels of unemployment. It's not a safe place to be living in these settlements directly outside this area. I'm in full agreement to think they should be considered illegal, but maybe not because of some bullshit partition plan from 75 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That they will not cease fire as a result of this resolution. And it is not clear.
Yeah, don't forget about the Music Peace Festival 5 minutes outside the camp. The peace activists. The peace activists having a rave directly outside the concentration camp. Yeah, I don't know, man.
That puts Israel in terms of international law. The American ambassador at the United Nations referred to this resolution as being non-binding. It's not really clear what she meant by that. UN Security Council resolutions are binding. It may be that she was referring to the fact that this is a kind of resolution that cannot be enforced militarily. But
maybe it should be.
The UN's highest body is now ordering Israel to cease fire. That is a resolution that the U.S. allowed to pass, and the Israeli government is saying that they will not abide by it.
So maybe there should be some kind of consequences then.
And Raf, the U.S., I was on a conference call on the record with John Kirby.
The Security Council has now said
for the White House, of course, and he said that the reason why they're
just going to disregard
it,
no consequences?
They didn't veto it, they abstained, which let it pass, is because it did not condemn October 7th, the massacre. And that's what they have been demanding. So he is saying that this is not a change in U.S. policy, because there were a lot of UN resolutions, as you well know, leading up to this, 3 at least that I can think of, that the U.S. vetoed on behalf of Israel because it did not specifically condemn Hamas for October 7th. So they're saying that this is not a change in position, but certainly in the context of the visit that was anticipated by Ron Dermer.
Alas, we have told them to be nice. But the United States' hands are bound by the shackles of its respect for national sovereignty in the Middle East. There's just nothing there. There's nothing they can do. That's how much respect that they have for other nations' abilities to engage with their neighbors and ensuring that they have sovereignty. It's true. The U.S. just has too much respect for that.
Its top advisor and the key negotiations or discussions that had reached a pretty angry pitch between the White House and Netanyahu over Rafah and whether they were going to go ahead with an invasion to get those 4 battalions of Hamas out of Rafah that the U.S. opposed. This was a key moment to de-escalate. But the other key thing that's happened is the weekend talks, where there are reports that Israel has agreed to a proposal that's on the table for the hostage releases for some 700 or 800 Palestinians to be released, including some terrorists, some known killers, convicted killers, in exchange for the 40 hostages. And it would seem if there's no ceasefire,
It's so
there's no way to get
brazen
those
the way that they
hostages safely out.
manufacture
So that
consent
this
for this.
determination to continue hostilities
They've got
not
killers.
only stops the aid from getting in, more aid from getting in, but will
Kill it
prevent
in.
those hostage releases, the hostage release to go from going forward or from being accepted.
Right. It becomes a little bit of a chicken and egg
Yeah, obviously we
situation. The
coordinated that.
Israelis say if there is a deal on the hostages, there will be a ceasefire. Hamas is saying if there's a ceasefire, the hostages will be released. And what order you implement those is key. As you said, there was supposed to be this delegation by senior Israeli officials heading to the White House with a very specific purpose. They were there to hear out American concerns about a potential Israeli invasion of the city of Rafah in southern Gaza, where
The
some
IDF soldiers held by
1.5
Hamas are
million
all
Palestinian
angels,
civilians
exactly.
are
Not
sheltering.
killers, obviously.
The White House has made very clear at this point it opposes any large-scale Israeli offensive into Rafah. It has said that it believes it will be a disaster, that there is nowhere safe for those civilians to go. So the point of that meeting was for the Israelis to hear the American concerns, but also to hear what was supposed to be a set of American proposals of alternatives to a full-scale invasion. Now, we don't have the exact details of what the White House was proposing, but it's likely to be along the lines of targeted raids. That meeting no longer going to happen, and as you say, this is a real point of tension, but public tension between Israel and the United States.
You got to wonder what's going to happen if
Andrew.
they do just do a full-fledged invasion of Rafah.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app.
No, I don't want the MSNBC app, sir. Thank you. It will be really interesting to see if that's what they end up doing. We have this stuff, this very mealy-mouthed bullshit from the Biden administration about Rafah, which obviously Israel is not considering in any way. But look at it. How could they not? How could they not be intimidated by this kind of language, though? Look at how this is America. Now they're getting tough. Now America's getting tough about this possible Rafah invasion. And I imagine Israel's got to see clips like that and just be absolutely terrified at what's going to happen if they go through with this.
We have been clear in multiple conversations and in every way that any major military operation in Rafah would be a huge mistake. Let me tell you something. I have studied the maps. There's nowhere for those folks to go. And we're looking at about 1.5 million people in Rafah who are there because they were told to go there, most of them. And so we've been very clear that it would be a mistake to move into Rafah with any type of military operation.
A mistake, but would there be consequences if he does move forward?
Well, we're going to take it one step at a time, but we've been very clear in terms of our perspective on whether or not that should happen.
Are you ruling out that there would be consequences from the United States?
I am ruling out nothing. We have
Oh my God. Netanyahu just saw that and they're just like, we're terrified. We are terrified. Look at these threats now. Unbelievable. They must just be absolutely petrified at the possible consequences that they're going to have to endure if they go against what America's telling them to do. Ceasefire still allows Israel's daily violence of checkpoints, blockades, embargoes on food, medicine, electricity, water, other utilities, etc. I mean, this is what it comes down to. Are Palestinians willing? Is there any appetite to just go back to? I know everyone wants the bombs to stop, obviously. Is there any appetite to go back to just the everyday routine violence and dehumanization of the occupation in the aftermath of this? didn't they seriously consider giving them more funding to get them to step in line? They just gave them more funding. Like, keep all of this in mind. This resolution passes. Netanyahu's pissed off about it. Here's the bill that Congress just passed, that I believe Biden has signed this already, that cuts UNRWA funding, sends Israel another $3.8 billion, and yes, limits aid to the Palestinian Authority if, quote, the Palestinians initiate or support an international criminal court investigation against Israel for human rights crimes. They just passed this bill to give them an extra $3.8 billion. Maybe that could have been tied to this whole like Rafah thing, you know? Maybe you could dangle that up in the air and try to compel them to engage in the way that they want them to. I've spoken with President Netanyahu and I've warned him that we will draw very angry, frowny faces on all the bomb shipments from now on. We're going to give you those billions of dollars and all those weapons, but we're going to have a very furrowed brow. We're going to have a very furrowed brow as we send over the billions of dollars and all the weapons. Our brow is going to be so furrowed. Dems overwhelmingly voted for it. Of course they did. And I think I bookmarked at AIPAC. Let me just find this, because they're celebrating it. Do you know one of the most fucked up? Haven't you seen any of these statements that are being made talking about the female hostages remaining in Gaza? And they're saying, we presume them to be pregnant now. We're assuming that they're all pregnant. All the female hostages. That is so psychotic. Even with the female hostages that have been released, none of whom have said anything about being sexually assaulted. In fact, there was one woman that suggested that she was sexually assaulted by the fact that she was not sexually assaulted. And there's people literally saying, they're presumably pregnant. We presume that all the female hostages are pregnant. Sorry, I'm just trying to find... Oh, and of course, the believe Israeli women people. Immediately, there's a piece in Jerusalem Post. Hamas, Al Jazeera admits story of IDF rapes in Gaza hospital fabricated. And of course, they all just take that as being the gospel truth immediately. When there's actual firsthand accounts of it. There's actual testimonies of it. God, reading the AIPAC feed is just fucking incredibly depressing. Look at an AIPAC celebrating. Look at this. This is incredible. Congress just passed and President Biden signed into law $3.3 billion in vital security assistance for Israel without added political conditions. Without added political conditions. This life-saving support will help keep our allies safe and ensure Israel has the resources it needs to protect its families. So, let's probably keep that in mind when we talk about this like resolution that the US actually allowed to pass at the UN, or the whole threat of like, oh, we're going to have consequences. We're going to have consequences. We're going to possibly consider maybe at some point possibly enacting some kind of consequences if Israel doesn't knock it off, if they go through with this operation. And meanwhile, they just signed an extra $3.3 billion. How much money is that over the last 6 months? In addition to like the $4 billion or whatever that they get every year? How many additional rounds of funding have they gotten? Yeah, the Fed's making all this infinite money. You got to send it to somewhere. You can't give it to people to buy groceries with, of course. The Israeli money is non-inflationary. That's right. That's non-inflationary spending. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Would hate for that to be inflationary. That would be no good. Beyond Parity, a lobbying group openly operating for a foreign nation. They make up stories about China interfering elections for banning TikTok while that's going on. Yep. Yeah. Let's have a China pack. Buying off Congress members. In fact, we actually should. I'm not even saying that as like a thought experiment or being facetious. Like, I think that should be a thing, but yes, TikTok is a grave threat to national security. Meanwhile, Israel just has its arms fucking everywhere in the United States government. And yeah, all kinds of stories coming out right now about rapes and sexual assaults on the part of the IDF. And all the same people believe Israeli women, asking us to believe these stories about mass rape gangs with zero evidence. And now Palestinians are actually giving firsthand testimonies about rapes and sexual assaults. And the first thing that they do is just deny it all. Honestly, kind of like Jenk's ad, though. It has a cringe cadence about the put aside your $7 at a groceries for bombs for Israel. Yeah, I didn't see the ad. I mean, if Cenk would stop being a dipshit about other things, then maybe that would be more effective. I remember he did a big thing a few weeks ago about from the river to the sea, being like, "Stop saying it. Stop saying from the river to the sea. It offends our Jewish friends." No, I'm going to continue saying it, but thank you. I'm going to continue saying that, actually. Stop doing that one thing and they'll see how reasonable we are and finally work with us in good faith. We're looking at the lists of words and slogans that people get upset by. Once we stop doing all the slogans, all the bad slogans. We use the computer
to mark up the size of the account.
You're not helping your cause, says person who opposes your cause.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is just like, and it's an overall problem with some people that I think have tried to take strong stances on Palestine. I think like Owen Jones and the Novara people in the UK are examples of this as well, where it's like they take important stances. I think Owen Jones takes important stances about this, but also at the same time, in the early days of this, they were repeating all those things. Oh, it's the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust, and they do all the condemnations They condemn Hamas and they condemn this person and that person, this saying and that saying. And then when they try to take important stances, which they do, like Owen has been doing lately, I think it gets undercut by this. Like, I think it's hard to talk about Israeli genocide when you agree with the basic premise that Hamas is this like Jew-hating terrorist group that all they care about is just killing Jewish people, and that's all that amounts to. And then you're saying, so I agree with that premise, but I don't agree now with Israel trying to wipe them off the map. You know, it's like, which is it? If you agree with that premise, why are you disagreeing with if that's how you view Hamas or any of these groups, that's all they care about is just murdering Jewish people, then why are you criticizing Israel's ability to wage war against those people? You know? Yeah, I mean, you say Hamas wants to kill Jews so much they've spent 6 months keeping Jews alive so Israel doesn't incinerate them. And you can read a number of these accounts, like, don't take our word for it. You can read a number of accounts of people that have been hostages. Not that it's nice to be taken hostage. I don't think it's nice, but, you know, you see in these hostage releases, they're like dapping up the people that released them. And they talk about it. I was fed. I was given medicine. I was eating the same thing that my captors were eating. There was that one story where there were people throwing their bodies on top of me to prevent us from being blown up by Israeli missiles. Like, that's not really the actions of just this like racist anti-Semitic terror group that is just just interested in murdering Jewish people. But I guess that's my point. I think I can look at things that someone like Owen Jones has done lately, and I think he's been taking important stances. He's using his platform to kind of speak out and taking strong stances. But I think it's undercut when you agree with the framing about these resistance groups and about October 7th. And I don't think it's not like that's gotten him any credibility for these the people that support Israel. The child gave candy to the other children, but not to me. They are pure evil. Is a real thing, a former hostage said. And she was the one that was invited to the State of the Union. Really amazing. Yeah, we watched it last week, the Al Jazeera document investigation. I think it's definitely very worth watching. I took down the VOD because there's some gruesome scenes in it, and I didn't want the channel to get, a strike or get taken down, but really recommend that people watch that. It's quite even-handed too. It's not like it's this Hamas propaganda thing. Like, it's very even-handed. Anyway, folks, I think I should go pretty soon. I'm going to go in 15 minutes. I'm pretty tired. I'm not feeling great.
Good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Slub to rib.
Thank you, Ross. Thanks for 19 months of tier 1. I really appreciate that. A mere 5 subs away from the goal, folks. So if there's one brave hero or 5 ever so slightly less brave heroes that want to support this program and subscribe to this show and help keep this show on the air,
you can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob.
Please subscribe or give subs if you can. Diego, thanks so much for the gifted sub. Thank you, Diego, for all the support.
You
really
can count on me.
That.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I don't know why that got auto-modded.
Was it ISIS or Ukraine?
Or it didn't. Okay. Plunger Man, thanks for 30 months of tier 2. Damn, I didn't really get as much time to get into that. I was planning on talking about that a little after, but I'm really running out of energy. Again, we all have our suspicions about this, and even if it is ISIS, even though ISIS has claimed responsibility, I believe that's been confirmed. I mean, I saw images of one of these terrorists that was being interrogated saying that he just got money. He got paid from someone on Telegram to go and carry out this horrific attack. Have you considered amphetamines? Yes, I have. I would love to do more amphetamines, actually. We've talked a lot lately about how ISIS seems to be popping up lately to attack enemies of the US, Iran, or in this case, Russia. People have pointed out, well, ISIS has very real reasons to hate Russia. Russia was fighting ISIS in Syria, and that's a whole other side aspect of that. Yeah, they have very legitimate reasons to hate them, but it's still kind of interesting when they're attacking our geopolitical enemies, whether it's Iran or Russia. And why did the United States assassinate General Soleimani, who was fighting ISIS and training these other regional militias to defend themselves against ISIS? And then America assassinated them. Has anyone ever seen ISIS and Ukraine in the same room at the same time? I'm just asking questions. Or ISIS and Israel. Again, I got into a little bit of trouble a couple weeks ago when I talked about this connection between Israel, Mossad, and ISIS. I don't know. But the question is, though, if Russia does determine that American intelligence apparatus was involved, or Ukrainian intelligence, which is the same thing, right? If the Ukrainian intelligence apparatus is connected to this attack, that means the United States intelligence apparatus is connected to it as well. And if they make that determination, how are they going to respond? That's the question. This could very easily escalate, not just in Ukraine, but elsewhere. Israel dropped the Hamas ISIS pretty quickly, didn't they? Yeah. Now that ISIS is popping up to attack our enemies, attacking who we claim are the funders of Hamas. Their choices of targets remain interesting. It is interesting. And like I said, I've been called a conspiracy theorist over this kind of stuff. I don't view it as being a conspiracy theorist. I view it as basic pattern recognition. We know for a fact that the United States has many times over the decades worked with extremist groups, particularly Salafist Islamic extremist groups, to destabilize other governments that they don't like, to, advance their geostrategic goals. They have a long history of this. So when we kind of ask these kind of questions about ISIS or any other extremist group, when they seem to be popping up to attack only America's enemies, I think that's not a conspiracy theorist. That's just asking questions about these basic patterns that have a long legacy. I think we can and should ask those kinds of questions. There's a history of ISIS literally getting medevaced out of Syria for a hospital stay in Israel. Yeah, I've seen that, and I have a bunch of clips and tweets saved that I wanted to get to talk about this. Maybe we can talk about this tomorrow, though. Maybe we can talk about it tomorrow because I do have to get going pretty soon. Yeah, that's the one, Diego. 3 little bitty subs to go to get to the goal, folks. Three little bitty subs. Are there 3 heroes? Are there 3 beautiful individuals that want to step up and support this program? Only 3. Only 3 little bitty subs to get to the goal. And I will put a finger down for every sub. I'm always beautiful. I know that, Red Wizard. I know. Don't support this man. He hates capitalism, and I think he's a commie.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Red Wizard, thank you very much for the 2 gifted subs. Was that just because I said you were beautiful? Yes. I will take it. I will take it. There's just one little bitty sub to go, folks. Who's going to be the hero? Who's going to be the legend?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Anon. They don't even want the credit.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
They don't even want to be the acknowledgement. That's why our anonymous sub-gifters...
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob
are the most Christ-like of all sub-gifters, as we know. Anon, thank you for the 3 gifted subs. That's very kind of you.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Jay, as well. Don't feel bad. You can
count on me. You're going to have
your
good
thunder
old
was
Rob
not stolen,
to talk
Jay.
you through all this.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Plunger Man as well. Thank you for the gifted sub.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Ryaland 2024, thank you for the gifted sub as well. Very, very kind of you. In fact, Ryaland 2024, I've gifted a total of 5 in the channel. A total of 5 gifted subs in the channel, and you know what that means. Ryaland 2024, the newest elite tier member of the Friendship Triangle system. Thank you, Ryaland. Thanks, folks. Thanks for watching today. Happy to be back. Thanks for everyone for supporting the show. As always, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it a lot. I'll be back tomorrow. Give my regards to our friend Yugopnik. I'm gonna have to get some Helldivers too going to Yugopnik again soon. Lodane's gonna be back with more Baldur's Gate tomorrow. Okay, good. Oh, I'm gonna go have a little lie down. I'm gonna go have a little dang lie down. Don't let the nap demon take you. I might. I don't really have much to do. I don't have a pickup to do today, so I may very well do that. Take care, folks. Goodbye.